All right, good morning and welcome to tutorial 1, getting started with HTML5. What we're going to do today is we're going to go through the presentation, and then for this chapter only, I'm going to walk you through the tutorial 1. Um, Feel free to, when you watch this video, to follow along when we get to the tutorial. All right, so we're going to start off talking today, getting started with JavaScript or HTML5. We're going to look at the history of the web, create the structure of an HTML document, insert HTML elements and attributes, insert metadata into the document, define a page title. We're going to look at marking page structures with sectioning elements, organizing page content with grouping elements, mark the content with text level elements, insert inline images, and insert symbols based on character codes. We're going to create a list, a navigation list, link files within a website with hypertext links, and link email addresses and telephone numbers. All right, so looking at this slide here, we can see that there are a couple different items that are pointed out. You'll see at the top the doc type. Okay, here. Okay, the doc type HTML code. First of all, in HTML, your web page is going to be made up of a series of tags. With tags, you'll have an opening and closing tag. For example, you'll see here in this example, the HTML. That's an example of an opening tag. So you have your brackets, HTML, closing brackets. What you see at the bottom of the page, you have a closing tag. That marks the end of that element. So this one will have a bracket slash HTML. So we'll see here that we start off with document type. Then we'll have the HTML tag. That's going to say it's the beginning of the HTML document. Now, your web page itself is going to be two main sections inside of that HTML tag. You're going to have a head tag. Just look at it here. This is going to contain information about the document. This generally is not going to be things that's going to be seen on the web browser. Okay. The body tag is going to have your content that will be seen in the browser. Now back on the head tag, when I said it's generally not going to have things that'll be seen there. There will be exceptions. For example, the title and the side curbside tile. Okay, we will look at that. That will be what was showing up in the browser tab. All right, meta tags mark metadata containing information about the document. Okay, so we'll see here that we got links here that are creating our navigation menu. And we talked about we have an opening tag and a closing tag. Okay, when we look at the web, the World Wide Web is a network. Networks are structured in which information and services are shared among devices. So what you're doing is you're connecting to a central location that allows you to connect to other servers, computers, and so forth. Host or node can be any device that is capable of sending and receiving data electronically. And a server is a host that provides information or service to other devices on the network. Now, when you have the server, any client, any computer that's connected to it, or any other device is going to be called a client. In a client-server network, clients access information provided one or more users. It's going to be connected to the network, connected to the server, and from there, information is shared. Another type of network is a local area network. A LAN is a network confined to a small geographical area. You can also have a wide area network. That's a network that covers a wide area. There's several buildings, cities, networks of that type of nature, and the internet is the largest one in existence. Timothy Berners-Lee developed the World Wide Web with other researchers at the CERN nuclear facility in Geneva in 1989. So what they've done is they developed the hypertext documents that allow them to connect to users and allow them to navigate through one subject to another. So they was able to go from one place, clicking a link that took them to another document. So hypertext is a method of organization in which data sources are interconnected through a series of links or hyperlinks that users can activate to jump from one piece of information to another. Every document you have on the web is going to be referred to as a web page, and these pages are going to be stored on web servers. Documents on the web can be accessed through software programs called a web browser. Some of the most popular ones are Chrome, Firefox, Microsoft Internet Explorer or Edge, Safari for Apple. Okay, now the text file that you use, it's going to be written in HTML. That's for your web pages. This will have things like the structure of documents by identifying or tagging different document elements. So like the head tags, the body tags, paragraph tags. So there's a wide range of tags, for example, in this. Now, when the web started coming out, when people were starting to develop with HTML, the browser developers, they were kind of free to define and modify the language as they felt because there were no rules or syntax. So they developed the World Wide Web Consortium of the W3C, and they set the standards or the specifications for the browsers to manufacture for them to follow. Now they have no enforcement power. They can't go to Microsoft and say you cannot add this feature to Edge because it doesn't follow along with our standards. But their recommendations are generally followed because it gives a uniform approach. All right, XHTML is extensible hypertext markup language. It's different from HTML, different version of HTML for stricter standards. This was where the industry was at before the development of HTML5. And if you've had any experience with HTML in the past, some of those features may be depreciated or phased out. HTML5 itself, though, sometimes they will say this certain tag is depreciated, and then later on say, well, okay, we still need it. Let's put it back. We see a history of HTML here of when it was developed and the descriptions for this. Now, to work with HTML, you need a basic text editor, such as Windows Notepad. The one I recommend is Notepad++, and I'm going to pull this up and show you why. Notepad++, it will give you the color coding on your tags and links. Okay, so let's go to format this a little bit better. So if I put a tag in, you see it will also give me the autocomplete. So it knows that I need to close this tag. So there's a lot of benefits to using Notepad++. It does give you, and it's free. You can go download it. For this course, you do not have to download it if you're not going to try to work through the examples in the chapters of your textbook, but I strongly recommend downloading this. All right, IDE or Integrated Development Environments. This is a package that provides, covers all phases of the development process, writing HTML code. Validators are programs that test the code to make sure there's no syntax errors. Now, just because something passes a validator does not mean there is no errors in the code itself or into your content in your code. One of the best validators is the W3C validator. We'll pull up an example here. For this example, you can put your URI in there, you can upload a file, or you can do a direct input. I'm going to do a copy and paste of this. Check this, and it's giving me some warnings here. Okay, so it's not necessarily that it didn't pass, but it will show you the warnings, and then it shows you in your document itself, says, hey, this is where we've looked at this, and you might want to consider adding a little more to this. All right, so now we'll take a look at this HTML file. We'll see some things in here. Looking here, we have a two-sided tag enclosing element content, the title. Okay, so this is what will appear on our browser tab. This is empty elements that do not contain content. The links here will link to a style sheet. You will not see that, but it does, and we'll cover this later on. A style sheet is an external sheet that's linked to the document to tell you how this document, or tell your web browser how this document should be displayed. All right, we'll see here the alt. Okay, this is an element attribute. Okay, you see these image tags or IMG tags. That's saying, hey, this is the image. The SRC is the link to that image, and this is what's going to show up there. Let me see if I have this one here. Okay, I don't have that file downloaded currently. All right, and we see here that we have a nav tag that's saying this is our navigation area. We have these elements. These are going to be nested elements because they're going to be tags that's residing inside of a tag. So we have our nav, and then we're having our links created here. This href equals, this is telling me what web page this is going to. Okay, so we see here we have an about, a locations, menu, reviews, catering, and contact. Now I have found the page that we was looking for. So looking at this web browser here, see at the tab up here at the top, we do have the catering by curbside tie, and we look at this document here. Right now we just see the curbside tie on here in the title. Okay, we see here that we've got, for example, the about page. It's got the image, the link, and then the alt tag, the alt text is about us. So instead of seeing the CT underscore about.html, we're going to see what's listed here, the about us. So when we click on this, it's going to take us to the about us, or the CT underscore about HTML link. All right, so we talked about this. The first line of an HTML file is the document declaration type, or type declaration, or doc type. So we're saying, hey, this is a document. It's going to be an HTML document. Element tags, these are the fundamental building blocks in every HTML document. And it marks a document, an element in the document. So we have a starting tag, as we see here, the element indicating that is the beginning of the element, and the ending tag will have the slash in front of the text. Two-sided element tag. You see, this is the general syntax. Is we have our opening tag, the content that'll be in that tag, and then the closing tag. So let's say if you wanted to create a paragraph, okay, we use a P tag for the paragraph. So we'd have the opening P, our paragraph be reading, and then the closing paragraph tag. And we'll see the importance of tags that once we really get into CSS, you'll see that you can use those tags to modify the appearance of that section only. We can't put empty elements here. Okay, so this is something that's either just images or just has directives to the browser about how the page should be treated. So example we got here is the line break. Okay, so we have an opening here, and then we're just closing it because there's no information there. Okay, so it's just going to let the browser know that this is the end of the sentence. So let's round off to the next way. The hierarchy for our document we've talked about, we've got the open and close HTML, and within inside of that, we've got our head and body tags. And then the content that will go in between the head and body content. Okay, so we got the head element, it's going to mark some information about the document. The body element is going to have the content that's going to appear in the web page. It's very important that we do this, that the body element is always placed after the head element. Now we can also add element attributes. It's going to provide additional information to the browser about the purpose element. So we see the syntax here of an element attribute. We got our opening element tag, and then our attributes set to our values. So for example, in this one, if I had a paragraph tag and I wanted the text to be, or the background color to be blue for that, I would put background dash color and then set the value to blue. Then if I wanted the text to be green, I would do the same there. Now, white space, this is the empty or blank areas. This is space, tabs, line breaks. White space is used to make your page more appealing, make it to where it's easier to read. Let me go back to the example of the page we had. This area here, not that, this white area, this is white space. This here is white space. Okay, so this page looks more appealing than it would if everything was mixed together. All right, I'm going to show you a website, and it's an absolutely horrible website. It's for I'm going to assume a rental car lot, but you can see how, this site here does not take advantage of white space, and it is just, everything is packed right on top of each other. I think the only reason we've got white space here is because the guy ran out of cars. But this has been voted one of the worst designed websites ever. Everything is just piled on top of each other. So you want to make white space. All right, so we're going to skip through this one. This is a part of your review. Now, the HTML is going to describe the document's content and structure, not its appearance. That's going to be handled by the style sheets. You got a couple different ways you can do style sheets, and we will get into those. Metadata is the content that provides information about how the document should be processed by the browser. We see some metadata elements here. The head contains a collection of metadata elements that describe the document or provide instructions to the browser. The meta tag is going to provide a generic list of metadata values, such as keywords, viewpoint properties, and the files encoding, character encoding. Script is going to provide programming code for programmers to run within the document. This is where you're going to put your JavaScript at this point. When you guys get into that course, you'll also build an external script sheet, and that you can link it in using the script tags. Style is going to define the style, display styles. You can define styles inside of the head. You can define styles in line with the element while you put the tag in. Or you could do a separate sheet and apply it and link it into your web page. The title tag is going to store the document's title and name. That's what's going to appear in the browser tab. So we see here we got the title, about curbside tie. And we're going to go back to the curbside tie page. When we go to the about, we see that up here it's got the about curbside tie. That's what the title for this is. And if you look at the view code, in here, you can see some parts of this. So we can see in here we've got the character set, we've got keyword set. So anytime they search, say you go to Google and you're searching for the word Thai restaurant, Charlotte food, okay, it's going to find that these keywords are associated with the page and pull up the page. Then we see our title. Okay, so what we saw up here is what's going to be typed in here. Then we have our CSS. These are our external sheets. I'm going to pull one up just to give you an example. Okay, so we're saying everything's got an HTML tag. We're going to put the font size at 100%, and we're going to use these other settings that we'll get into later. You don't need to worry about those right now. But these are external style sheets. All right, your meta element structure is your opening, the meta, and then attributes, and then close it. Character encoding is a process by which a computer converts text into a sequence of bytes and vice versa, where it stores the text and when the text is read. So we see that, for example, here we got our character coding set. This character set equals UTF-8. We talked about the keywords already used by search engines. You can also comment on these. You want to put comments in your document. Comments not only help you remember what is going on at that part of the time, but also if somebody comes along after you. Say you work for a company, you design their web page, and then you move on to another job, another company. The next person that comes in has to maintain that web page. So if you have your stuff commented well, they can come in and say, okay, this section here is was created on this date, for example. So I'm going to pull back up my Notepad++, give you an example of this. And that's a good example, like it says, to include this in the heading. All right, so we see here the example of a comment. So this is stuff that's not going to be shown on the browser. Okay, so an example, this one says, hey, this is the Jed's Tree Care Home, their homepage. It's got the author's name and then the last date it was updated. So that you put that in, that way you can always make sure that you're working with the latest update, or see how far back you need to go back. All right, you can also use sectioning elements. We see somewhere an address. It marks it contact information. Article. It's going to show us like a newspaper story. Marks the self-contained composition in the document. Aside marks content that is related to the main article. Body is going to contain the entire contents of the document. Footer is going to contain the closing contents. It concludes an article or section. Okay, these H tags, these are your different levels of heading. H1 is going to be your highest heading. H2 represents the next level, and so forth as you go through this. Header is going to contain opening content that introduces an article or section. And this is different than the head section. Nav is going to have the navigation links, and then section is going to share a common theme or purpose of the page. I would see here the different sections. So we have our header sections, our navs, sections in here, articles inside the sections, nested elements. We also look at some grouping elements. I'm not going to go through this list completely. A couple things in here. The div, it's a generic grouping element within the document. HR is going to make a black line. It's a horizontal rule. Fig will contain illustrations, photos. Fig caption is going to have the caption associated with that. The OL is an ordered list. The UL is an unordered list. Those are going to be used in conjunction with the LI. LI is the list item. And then finally, the P's is the paragraph. We have a lot more codes in here. Like I said, we're not going to go through every one of these. A couple ones. A is going to mark content for hypertext link. B is a span of text, which attributes are going to be drawn, and the texts are going to appear in bold. Okay, so B will make it bold. BR is going to be a line break. EM is going to make your text in italics. Span is a generic run of text within the document. Strong will also make it your text bold. It indicates content of strong importance. You can use sub and super or soup to make it either a subscript or superscript. Time will make a time value. Var will make it a variable. All right, so now we've come to the point where we're talking about style sheets. These are a set of rules that specify how a page elements are displayed. It's written in the cascading style sheet language. We see here the syntax now of how to link an external style sheet. As I said earlier in this video, we can have it done a couple ways. You can write your styles in the head. You can write them in line with the element itself. Or you can write an external style sheet and then link that sheet to the page. Okay, the advantage of that, if you want it just at one instance when it appears in your page, you may want to put a style with the inline if you want it that one time. If you want it to affect only the one page, you would put it in the head section. If you want to use a style sheet and you're wanting it to be applied through all the web pages of your website, which is probably the best way to do this, you're going to need to apply it to an external style sheet and then link this sheet in. One of the advantages of this is if you have to make a change, you only go to the external style sheet and make the change, and everything is updated. Whereas if you're using it inline, you have to go to the page, find it. If you're using it in the head section, you have to go to each page that's got that setting and change it. All right, so we see the syntax here. We're going to create the link. We're going to reference it, and then we're going to name the file sheet. The name of the file sheet will go here. And then we're going to say this is the attribute that indicates the type of relationship. So in this case, we'll say, hey, this is a style sheet. All right, character sets are a collection of characters and symbols rendered by the browser. The character encoding associates each character from a character set that we stored and read by a computer program. The character entity reference is also used to insert a special symbol using the syntax. You see here the example. All right, so we talked about embedded elements, embedded content. This is content that's imported from other resources. So we can also use embedded elements, inline images, or images that are placed like text level elements in a line with surrounding content. So we see here, example, we've got an image, inline image that's been inserted, embedded in this. So we're saying this is an image tag. And then we're going to have the link to the file and then the alt text for the image. All right, lists. We looked at the OL and the UL and the LI. List is a type of grouping element. Order lists are for items that follow a defined sequential order. Unordered lists are just items which they have no sequential order. Description lists contain a list of terms and matching descriptions. A navigation list are unordered lists of hypertext links placed within the nav element. Okay, so that's your menu. All right, so we create a hypertext by using the open and closing A tags. So we see here the example that are opening and closing tags. Okay, so this is the closing bracket for the opening A. We're going to put it here in the href. The URL is the Uniform Resource Locator. So with this, if we were going to say google.com, or create a link to Google, we would put the A, or we'll use the example down here, for example, the CT_start. Okay, so that would be the link to the page. Now, if we're going to add an image to this, okay, so we're going to create an image that's the link. So we'll do the image, and then we'll put the name of the file that we're going to create the image with. Okay, so let me pull up that page again. And CT start. We see the CT start. So it takes us to our home page. So I'm going to say click about us. So to create this image up here as a link, we see here that they've got the CT start page and then the link, the image itself, and then the alt text. It's important to put alt text. If your users load a page, and let's say for some reason this image doesn't load, okay, it will say whatever's in the alt text there. So curbside tie will appear here. If users are using help device, assistant devices like a screen reader, okay, when they come to this, it will read that this is what it says. So it is very important to use the alt text for these images. All right, those top of resources that a hypertext link points to is indicated by the link's URL. We have our scheme or location. Scheme is the resource type. Location provides the resource. Okay, so we use these protocols. We want to make sure we use protocols because it says it's defined how the information is passed between two devices. So we can set up things like a fax number. It's because it's phone number, HTTPS. So it says this is a resource in the World Wide Web, access over secured encrypted connection. We could use mail to in the email address, or tel and then telephone number, which then puts it out to where people can click on it and call that number, or they can click on the email, the mail to, and it'll have an email address. Web resources have a general structure, like this syntax where it's HTTP, server / path name / file ID, #ID. Server is the name of the web server hosting the resource. Path is the path to the file on its server. File name is the name of the file. And if you have to, the ID is the name of the ID within the file. You think of this as your your area here. Okay, so example on this one, I can say that my location here is users are Spurlock desktop, class 1510 solutions, and so forth. Okay, so that's my path name, my web resources, the links to it. All right, so you can turn your email address into a hypertext link by using the URL. So mail2.u.address. Same for the phone number. That allows the users to just click on those. Okay, give me just one second here. Let me get this situated here. All right, so very briefly, we're going to go through this. Let me make sure none of my documents have been completed here. So now, in the interest of time, I am just going to copy and paste this in, the code in, and we will go over the code as we paste it in. All right, so first thing in my document setup, so to the right are the JTC index and the JT_services.html. So I'm supposed to enter my name and date in the comment section. All right, my comment sections is identified by this information here, these tags. So I'm gonna put my information in here. All right, so you see here that these documents are automatically saved for me, so I don't have to save these. Real world, make sure you save everything. So I'm gonna close the services. Now it says in the head section, within the document head to the following, I'm gonna use the meta elements to set the character encoding to UTF-8. We'll set the title, and then I'm going to link the documents to the external style sheets. So like I said, I'm just going to copy and paste this from my solution file. All right, so I set the meta character set, as we talked about. The title, Jed's Tree Care, and then I've linked it to the to CSS. Okay, now when I do this, I'm going to come down here and I'm going to run a check. Okay, I passed that check. Now, if I want to view this, I have this arrow here that allows me to refresh down here once I make changes. But I also can click here. Okay, now when I refresh here, that's just going to make the changes in this window here. If I expand this, okay, because I've applied the CSS, which if I take the CSS out, let me just take all of that out. When I refresh that, you'll see that nothing's there. Because CSS is set up now to say, hey, for the body and the head, or the body section, HTML, we're going to put this information in. So refresh this, information's there. All right, so within the document body tag, insert a header element, a side element, and an article element. So I'm going to go down here and I'm going to open a tag. And if I open a tag, I need to make sure I close the tag. Okay, so I've done that. I'm going to run my check. Now, if you're at a point and you wonder what your score is, you can click over here to the task. And when you scroll down, you can see that right now I'm at 20% of this. So if I submitted this, I've got a 20 on this project. And you can also see the task I need to complete. All right, so I'm going to go to the next page. All right, so I'm setting up the navigation list. So I'm going to go back to the header element. And in here, I am going to insert a navigation list. It's going to have the nav element containing an unordered list and associated items. And I'll have the links to the index and the service files, and I'm going to name them home and services. So now I'm going to, like I said, just copy this. Okay, so looking at this, we see that I've got my nav open and close, and inside of those, I'm going to have an unordered list, open and close. The LI is my list item, so I've got an open and close list item. In there, I'm going to say this is a link. This is what I'm linking to, but this is the text that I want to appear. So I'm going to go back to my page, refresh this. You can see that I have my links located here now. And notice the service one takes me to an empty page. Okay, so once I've done this, I'm going to check the task. It's very important you check these tasks as you go along. Something you may not have completed. For example, if I have something up here in the navigation list that's not done, and I go to add customer reviews, something in that navigation list may not allow the customer reviews to pass. Because at that customer reviews point, when the MindTap checks the page, it's checking to see if the other one is there too. So it's expecting to see the navigation list. Okay, so I'm going to go to the JTC pages text file, which is located over here. And this is going to be information. I'm just going to copy and paste this. Or you guys will copy and paste this once you put your codes in. So let's just copy the text of the 3 reviewers, including the reviewers' names, which will be this top 3 things. And so you're going to copy that, and you're going to paste this inside the aside element. You're going to use a block quote element. You're going to put an inline image for the JTC underscore comments PNG file. This will be this file here. So you're going to put a comment in for that. You're going to specify comments as alternate text. You have to do this. Okay, if you don't put the comments in as alternate text, it will count this wrong. Anytime it says put the alternate text in, it's looking for this entire thing to be completed. And I'm going to replace the underscores of the dashes with a EM dash character, and it gives you the code here for what you're going to use that. So once again, I'm going to just copy this and paste it into my aside element. You will copy from this file here and put them in the correct elements. So I'm going to go down into my aside. I'm going to paste these in. Okay, so once again, I've got my image that's going to be inserted into the page. I'm using the block quotes. So I'm open and close a block quote. Use paragraph tags. Put the content in. Use a cite tag. So it's saying this is, I'm citing this person. Using the ampersand M dash. Okay. So I've got that information in. I'm going to run the check. Okay, I've passed the check. I'm going to come over here. I'm going to refresh my page, and now I can see that I've got comments added to my web page. Okay, so the next part it's got me going to is the article element. I'm going to insert a header element containing the inline image of the photo one and the alternate text of Jed's tree care. Okay, so once again, I'm just inserting the image. It's got the alt text. And this one passes. So now I've added this header image up here. Okay, so next step you're going to do is you're going to go back to the JTC Pages text file and copy the second section text containing the description of the company and its contact information. And then we'll come back to my HTML file, and I'm going to put this in the article element directly below the article header. So right after this, I'm going to go over here to this information. Okay, so this information here I would copy down through here. Now, when I look at my settings for this, I want to make sure the first two paragraphs are marked using the paragraph tag. I want to have the address element for the 5 lines down here. I want to make sure that the JEDS tree care in the first paragraph or first address, this here is marked with a strong attribute. And I want to make sure that the email and the phone number are marked where people can click on the dial. Okay, so I'm going back in here and I'm going to paste this in. Now I've already got, like I said, the solution that's got this marked up for me. You'll need to make sure that you put like the paragraph tags in, put the first content, the closing tags, and so forth. All right, so I've got my paragraph tags in. I've got this marked as an address. You see I use the strong here. So the strong is going to make this bold. Now, I want to make sure that I put my closing strong tag right after where I want it to stop. Okay, so if I don't have that in, everything after that strong tag is going to be in bold. So let me refresh this page here. We'll see the content's been put here. We'll see the JEDS tree care. Now, we're going to take this out here. My content information here should all now be bold. Okay, so they've now I've got the strong attribute applied to all of this. Okay, it will not pass the validator at that point. Put it back in. We'll come down. A couple things in here. I've made this. So I've got the email set up as a link. I've got the phone number set up as the telephone attribute here. We'll complete this step. Okay, this one's passed. Go on to step 5 of 6. All right, so now we're going to the JED. We're going to look at the JED services page. All right, so open this one up. I'm going to close that one out. All right, so I'm going to insert the same metadata that was in the document head of the other one. So I'm going to go over here and go back up at the top of the index, and I'm going to get the same metadata. Copy this, and I'm going to paste it in here. Do the check. Okay, so I've missed something here. Okay, so see I missed the second step. So where I go back to this and copy the body header. Now, when I'm copying the body header, that contains everything inside of the header. So it includes this navigation area. So now I'm going to come over here and put this in the body. So now when I check this, it should pass. And this here is this is telling the service, the web MindTap, how to grade this. All right, so I've got an error up here somewhere. Now, troubleshooting your errors is a lot of part of web design. Okay, you've got to learn how to look at your code and see where you've got the errors at. And I'll show you right here where my error is. I did not, or I changed the name of this. When I posted this in, I got here the Jed's Tree Care. So I need to make sure that I have Jed's Tree Care services. Now this should pass at this point, unless there's another error somewhere in there that I didn't look at right then. Okay, so you see how easy it is to make an error. And fixing your error is just looking at your code and looking at the instructions for this one. All right, so I'm gonna go back to the JTC pages text, and it wants me to copy the third content, which is the services here. So you'll copy this information all the way down through the end. Make sure you have the heading as well. Okay, so what we're going to do here is we're going to mark the heading that Jed's Tree Care says H1 heading. So this will be a one. We're going to insert an image, and then we're going to mark each one of these sections with an H2 element. And then we'll make sure that these are listed as paragraphs. So give me just a second, let me copy all this. And I'll go back to the services, and right after the end of my header, and paste this information in. So we'll see here that we have our H1. We got an image inserted, our H2 elements, our paragraphs are set up, and each one of those subtitles are going to be with the H2 element. So we'll look at our page here. I'm going to refresh this page. Now this is the page we just changed. Okay, remember, we're still on the home page here, the index. I'm going to click on services. You see up here that I have my links in here. I have my services listed here. You see how it is in the H1 attribute. H2 is noticeably smaller, and then my paragraph. And then I've inserted the image over here as well. So we'll run the check on this. Okay, and look at my tasks and see all my tasks have been completed up to this point. Right now, if I submit, I've got an 80. All right, so I'm gonna go down to this last step, adding a footer element. So directly after the text is the last service, insert a footer element containing the following text. So I'm gonna go over here and go down to the very bottom after this paragraph tag here. Now this goes within the body. I'm gonna add this footer. Okay, so it's got my information in here. Check this. Everything's passed. I can see the task. Still got to test it. I'm at 90. I'll refresh this page. So now that I have a footer located here with the symbols given to me for this. Wrong page. So now I'm going to click on page 6. It's going to have me test it. On this step, all I do is click this button and test the website. I know it says click the build website button. They redesigned MindTap, but they never changed that instruction. The test completed website is your build website. So anytime you see that, that's what you need to do. All right, so it's passed. It's also giving me the information about to validate. You don't have to do it for this step. I slip back over to task, and I can see that I have now got 100 on this assignment. You can also go to your task here and check each one as well. All right, so that's chapter 1. If you guys have any questions, feel free to give me an email. Also remember that I sent you guys an email that you have 14-day trial. If you do not have your MonTap, your Cengage Unlimited set up, you need to do that and get this started on these assignments.